You've not asked me the question that is uppermost in your mind, Winston. You know what is in room 101. Everyone knows what's in room 101.
Deep.
What do you know of my pain?
Let us explore it together. Each man hides a secret pain. It must be exposed and reckoned with. It must be dragged from the darkness and forced into the light. Share your pain. Share your pain with me and gain strength from the sharing.
Where did you get this power?
The power was within you.
Phew. As if a weight has been lifted from my heart. How can I repay you for this miracle?
Join my quest.
There's two things that I wanted to talk about here in regards to why we're doing this. Because people asked some great questions and there's a lot of good feedback. And one of the things was people wondered how my dad could fall so easily and in a day into that ruin. That opening clip was from George Orwell's 1984, which if you've ever read that or if you're familiar with that, perfectly describes Scientology, because that's what it is. And then it was also, there was another clip from Star Trek 5 showing the process of what's called, it's like a catharsis that happens in that example that I gave you with my father. And this kind of catharsis is central to all the auditing. That means the counseling that you do on the soup cans, which we'll get into down the road, but not here. And the training. I personally, when I had what was the most addicting to Scientology for me, and I know a lot of Scientologists will say this, there's many things, but the main thing was the auditing. We'll get into why this is, but I have had the most amazing, mind-blowing, euphoric feeling that I've ever had in my life in Scientology auditing. I know that sounds contradictory why I'd then be bashing Scientology, but I'm going to explain where that power comes from. And when we get into this shit, man, I'm telling you, we're starting out light here, but the second part of why I'm doing this video is I realize I'm going to have to jump to the end first and then come back, because we haven't even started this story yet. It's going to be, it's going to take us into some very strange areas. So anyways, this catharsis feeling that you have, which was symbolized really, really well in that opening clip from Star Trek, and also that clip from 1984 where they're walking into room 101, to me that symbolizes the auditing room that you're about to go in and get interrogated, either as a newbie or every time you go into an auditing session, you're re-traumatizing yourself and thinking you're actually going for spiritual gain. So I just wanted to let you know that catharsis and then also how the personality test plays into leading somebody up to that breaking point, and then what more about what goes on in that room, that will all be covered at the appropriate time. And I just wanted to give a little bit more information here at this point in the story. So the next part that I wanted to cover, and the main reason for this video, is it occurred to me doing these 4 videos and all the great feedback you guys have been giving that my plan was I was going to tell it from the beginning. I mean, the story is still going to go from the beginning to the end, but I was going to tell the technology side, the reason I call it technology is because they do. And even though it's not the technology they say it is, there is an actual technology on how to trap people. So it's quite intricate, complex, and brilliant. And also, you're not going to be taught any of this stuff in school. That was one of the most irritating things coming out of this, is that nowhere did I learn what you guys are going to learn here. In school, you're not going to learn it in basic psychology class. You're not going to learn any of this stuff. In fact, if you go to a psychologist that comes out of university and you say, I was under mind control in a cult, they'll roll their eyes back most likely, because they're not even taught that that's a real subject, let alone how detailed and intricate and necessary it is, particularly for people coming out of a cult. So the second part is I threw together a little documentary, like 5, 6, 7 minutes long. And it's a really concise introduction to how Scientology started, into the very depths of where we're going to be going as to what it is. And the reason I bring that up is because we're going to be breaking down many different parts of Scientology. There's the personality test, all the way up to the next level, which is the NLP, which stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Those all sorts of ways that Hubbard changed the language and used the words to hypnotize people. And then there's all the way up to the level that we're going to have to, which is why I'm showing you this now, of how the real control, where it comes from. Because the way I look at it is, when I was deprogramming, I only got so far with kind of what I know or what we knew. I wanted to ground myself in reality and science and basics, because I had my head out in the clouds believing in some crazy shit. So that took me pretty far. But at a certain point, I had to deal with the aspects that we're going to get into at the end of this thing, because it's the key. But I have to introduce it now so you can get a little bit of it, so you can get an overview and a framework in which all of this, from the personality test and everything else we're going to be discussing, there's a framework that all of this works within. So that's why I put together this little documentary by an amazing man named Ronald DeWolf, who was actually L. Ron Hubbard's son. It's a classic Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader, like epic battle that these guys had. And he has, from my opinion, the most in-depth background, and we'll go into the places where a lot of ex-Scientologists won't, but where you need to go in order to actually crack this fucking thing and be able to heal from it. In my opinion, I'm not a psychologist. I can only go by my own experience. And this is just information. You can take it or leave it. So anyways, I have a short movie that I'm going to play for you. And again, it's just an introduction, but let me explain it to you this way. First, before you watch this, Scientology is a secret society, like I said, and a secret society works like a pyramid. So the person up at the top, usually that's one person, that would be L. Ron Hubbard. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 also that know, but the founder, L. Ron Hubbard, only he knows that the whole thing's a con and what it's really all about. Everybody else, especially the further down you go, knows less and less and less about what the real game is. The only guy that really knows what kind of game it is L. Ron Hubbard. And we're not taking up here the point of whether or not he believed in it himself or he knew he was conning. That'll be talked about later, but very simply, it's both, right? He did believe in it, and he also, of course, knew he was conning people. So anyways, think about it like this. If you're a newbie Scientologist and you come in at the bottom of this pyramid, you're not going to know dick about what you're getting involved in. You're going to think it's basic tools for life, and you have no idea that you stepped into a pre-planned game that's guaranteed to lead to hell, all right? But it's slow, like I said, boiling a frog. The higher up you go in the pyramid, because everything's kept compartmentalized, so you only know a little bit more each step of the way. They never give you the whole thing until you get to the top. But you're so mind-controlled and hypnotized and into the game by the time you get here, and your moral code and spirit are gone, that there's pretty much no chance of getting out, even though you know quite a bit of the secrets by the time you get up to that level. So with that in mind, and there's more to say about that, I just want to give you the basics, but that's part of the reason why people get trapped in it and don't know that it's a con if they don't know anything about it, because nobody ever tells them the whole game. I've been through the whole fucking thing almost, so I can save you a lot of time. You can know what it's all about. And then I leave it up to you to decide whether or not you want to do it. I can guarantee you will not. Anyways, without further ado, listen to this important man. These are old clips. These are classic clips. And I'd like to preface it with Scientology and even ex-Scientologists. This man has been, let's just say, discredited mercilessly. But I can tell you, and I'm not saying he's a very controversial character, let's put it that way. But I can tell you that everything and more that he says in these clips is absolutely true. And when we get towards the end of this story, that's where we're going to get into the really crazy shit. It's also the exciting stuff. I know you're going to love it. I mean, I found it absolutely fascinating, and I was the guinea pig deprogramming from it all. So shit, I know you guys are going to like it. But I have to lead up to there. Otherwise, you're going to think it's too lunatic asylum. But we have to move it up to that level. However, like I said, you need to have some overview of the deepest level of Scientology and also how it all started in order to kind of grasp all this. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy the movie.
Believers think of founder L. Ron Hubbard as a genius and a saint. Detractors call him a fraud, and according to his own son, one of the biggest con men of the century.
Ronald Edward DeWolf. Are you the natural son of L. Ron Hubbard?
Yes, I am.
Going back a long time ago, when Dianetics first came on the scene, it was really the first of all the self-help books, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And it was an enormous bestseller in 1950.
Right. What kind of a man was L. Ron Hubbard Sr. then who wrote that book?
Quite flamboyant. At the time he wrote it in the late 40s, he was pretty broke. And he had told friends and associates that the way to make a million was to start a religion. And that's how it got started.
How would you describe what Scientology is all about and what the Church of Scientology is all about?
Well, to put it in layman sort of a succinct terms, Scientology says basically that 74 trillion years ago, everyone willed themselves into existence, and through space opera games and science fiction sort of things, they have created this universe. This is a universe created by you, me, and everybody else. And now we find ourselves trapped into bodies. And the goal of Scientology is to get untrapped from these bodies and to return to this godlike state, which is called operating Clayton.
Dianetics and Scientology is, according to Dad, the one and only true path to freedom, the one and only true alleviation of any aberration or human problem. It is the solution to anything that a human being may want to do. The true history of L. Ron Hubbard should come out and should be known by people. I'm talking about the documented facts and the actual occurrences of his lifetime, because he has built up over the years, since 1950, a great mystique, a great amount of false and imaginary data. I could say flatly that 99% of what my father wrote about his own life and what he had done is false.
In 1972, you alleged in court papers that your father had lived a life characterized by severe mental illness and physical disease, consistent failure, and the use of false and fraudulent oft-time criminal means to cover up these failures and to acquire wealth, fame, and power in order to destroy his perceived enemies. What made you draw those conclusions? What did you see that led you to that?
Because I lived it. 99% of what my father wrote and said about himself is totally untrue. And millions of people have taken this false data over a period of 30 some odd years and relied upon it and built a set of beliefs and built an organization and basically those allegations that I made were true because throughout up to 1959, I was deeply involved in all of it.
I've read that you've described your father as the devil, Hitler, total fraud, a con man. Pretty strong language from a son toward his father.
Yes, but true.
In what way? What manner?
Well, he was very deeply involved in black magic from early teenage years, which was the use of drugs and hypnosis, as an example. He used to conjure up these demons and thereby plug into them or have them plug into him. And a lot of his early writing was, which could be called spirit writing. And so he was very deeply involved in black magic, as an example, especially from Aleister Crowley, which was an English black magician. And around 1947 or so, he decided that he was the Beast 666 incarnate, because that's what Aleister Crowley was, and he died in 1947.
What did you see specifically? I mean, give me an example when you say criminal means. Like, for example, what did you see?
Fraud and deception, the involvement with, in the early days in Phoenix, Arizona, for an example, in 1952, the involvement with organized crime.
Organized crime in what capacity?
The use of Scientology money, his own money, to finance drug importations into the country from Mexico and Colombia.
You saw these things?
Yes, I was involved with several of the incidents.
You see, I'm rather interesting here. I've been under like a triple whammy for years. First of all, besides the drugs and the hypnosis, because he was trying to make me at the time when I was young the heir apparent. Drug and hypnosis as a kid used on me by him, plus being the son of somebody who's famous or infamous, however you may view it, being the son of L. Ron Hubbard, plus having Scientology. So most people just have Scientology to get out of their head. It took me the last 25 years to slowly sort all that sort of stuff out.
Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night?
Okay, I wanted to ask about, I understand that Charles Manson was very involved in Scientology, and that part of his philosophy came, his Satanistic views came from Scientology, and that was the basis of his whole philosophy, and I want to get the comment on that.
Well, interesting. I don't know what the answer is going to be, but I heard the same thing.
I do know he was involved.
You know he was involved?
You know, some of the people that were in and around him at the time have walked and talked, which seems to happen a great deal, even more recently over the last couple of years, but there was some involvement with Scientology.
My father only knew how to do one thing, and that was to destroy people. I mean, he would not, he could not do anything lightly. To him, anybody who did anything against him, criticized him, he would just flat go after their throat.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, just tip of the iceberg. And I'm going to leave you with this. So coming up next, we have Pump Up the Volume, which is where the shit really ramped up when Scientology came into my mother's life as well. And that's going to be the next video up about the story. And then also, if you guys are bored and you don't have anything to do, or you have questions, head on over to Reddit at the... I did a couple AMAs. I did one about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then I did one about 5 or 6 days ago where there's endless questions and information over there. I mean, I answered probably at least 100 questions. I mean, the questions they asked were amazing. But the Reddit community themselves, they know more about Scientology than I do. They just were going off on all sorts of threads and information. So I'm going to leave a link in the description box to both of those. That'll keep you busy for at least 12 years. This is about information. I honestly am motivated, especially at this point, to get this information down and then get it out and spread as widely as possible. Not for me, but because the more this information spreads, the more people won't have their lives fucked up. And that's a really empowering reason to be doing this. I thought when I just jumped on this last month, I just got off the couch. I'm like, shit, man, I need to get this off my chest. This experience has been amazing, my friends, and I really, really appreciate it. I can't tell you enough. But anyway, so there you go. And I'm going to leave you with this clip and go ahead and comment on it as to what you think about it. Let me just put it this way. One thing I've learned is that there's many more Scientologists in this crazy world. People who have dabbled in it, people that will never call themselves Scientologists but use the auditing technology and other parts of it that might, shall we say, surprise you. Take care.
But he come up with Dianetics 1950. So a lot of the guys were interested in studying how to clear your mind. That's where Scientology started. And then it got to be the process.
At one point, I felt I had reached the state of clear, right?
Which is what?
Which is in Scientology, I guess, is an area where you kind of, you're one with all, see all, know all. At least that's the way I interpreted it at the time.
You got to that state?
I thought I had.
I was in prison when Dianetics first started. Yeah, 1950. We fought the establishment. The black Muslims were coming in with the Quran on the dark side of the moon.
Sometimes you just feel that you're in total control of your surroundings and can literally will everything around you to happen. And I call, the Scientologist place, the local place where I was first here in L.A. I even tried to get hold of Mr. Hubbard at one point years ago.
You know how the occult is. You get involved in all kinds of under darkness things that are running under nooses, that are running through I don't know, it would take too long to explain it all.
Clear as you can, as I saw it, is seeing it all, knowing it all, feeling that you're in total control of everything, but seeing it all. Seeing the complete picture and feeling that you can control that picture. For me, that's what it was. Feeling that I was one with everything.
How to clear your mind from past confusion, how to resurrect the soul to be reborn within yourself. So that's where Scientology started.
Then I learned there was nowhere to go from clear.
When you called the Scientologists and said I became clear.
Yeah, so what happens after clear? Essentially what I found out is that there's nothing. After clear. There's nowhere to go from there.
Whatever that means, God is the devil, a clever devil or whatever, it opens up to wherever you go, whatever you're going to use, where are we going to survive, how's it going to go? You say, I want to be all these individuals and I want to believe all these things, but then the wind blows in another direction and you say, whoa, that hurts too much, I got to change my mind about something, because like when it comes down and we go down in the basement and you're laying up on the rack, you're going to do whatever the king tells you to do.
Dianetics by L. Ron Hubbard. Buy your copy at B. Dalton's, Walden Books, or wherever paperbacks are sold. A fresh look at today's problems